yourself to be a woman.
Right.
You know, same. You know, there are privacy and personal space for man and woman in certain areas. So if you identify yourself as a man, as a woman, while you're a man, and you say, by now I think I'm a woman now, then they cannot put you and stop you from going to a woman-only places.
So are you worried about that having an influence on kids then?
No, that's a different thing. I'm saying
because I think we've suddenly changed the track of this conversation. We were originally talking about. I started by saying I don't see religion as particularly progressive, and then we changed it to something else, which was.
No, I gave you an example of something that's happening within society where religion says one thing.
So is this whole conversation about discomfort with the LGBTQ?
No, not LGBT.
Okay, let's just talk about this subject anyway, because we can branch to different areas. Sure. What's your opinion about the pedophiles? Someone who has attraction to young children.
What's that got to do with LGBT?
Yeah, what's that got to do with that?
No, LGBT is a group of people in the community who have a certain sexual preference. Right. So, someone who has sexual preference for young children. What's your opinion about them?
Okay, so let's open this one up and think about it a little bit.
Yeah.
So, one thing that I find particularly interesting, and you might have to bear with me as I map this out a little bit.
Go ahead.
One thing I find quite interesting is, let's say I'm the age of 18, and holy shit, I suddenly realise that I am sexually attracted. I can't believe this is going on camera, but please say they're not going to re-edit this into something else. But let's say, God forbid, I suddenly realise that I'm sexually attracted to minors. That's a real problem. But here's what I find particularly interesting: if you immediately go to someone, let's say a counsellor or someone who's going to give you mental health support, they have to turn you over to the police. Now, that is a good and a bad thing at the same time, because as much as that immediately red flags them, it says, okay, you've got to keep an eye on this person because they have this kind of sexual proclivity towards children. At the same time, that's discouraging them from going to the right authority. So I do think that, imagine you are in that position. You are someone who cannot help that attraction, and where do you go? What do you do? I in some ways, I think there are some completely horrible animals out there who prey on kids, but I also think that you have some very confused and disturbed people who actually need a lot of counselling and help to try and get them out of this state. But as much as I don't think our sexual choice is a preference, I think actually they're fucked. They're fucked.
I find it very strange though, the double standards in treating the pedophiles. If you have a non-practicing pedophile, if such a concept exists, where someone really, they think they're attracted to minor, okay? There is a huge movement called MAPS, M-A-P, minor attracted persons.
Right.
So, are you saying they have a mental problem because they are attracted to little children?
A lot of the time you do find that it's that. It's something that will start in childhood.
So sexual preferences,
So it
we're
might
talking
start
about.
in childhood because you find a lot of the time there's a correlation between them having had that experience as a kid, being molested. A lot of the time people try to recreate their first sexual experience, and so that's it. They are being damaged and programmed to think like this going forward, and they need to have help to try and get out of this place if that is such a thing. I would love to see it if we lived in a world where people could be reformed. I would love it. However,
I find it strange though, why you consider to be reformed and already be people with a problem. A homosexual person, whether man or a woman, do you see it same way, that they are mentally with this problem, they need to be reformed? Their sexual preferences, instead of a man against a woman, is a man against a man? Why is your thinking different when it comes to homosexuals and pedophilia?
Who is it harming?
No, it's not question. I'm not talking about question of harm.
It absolutely is. I'm sorry. Hang on a second. It absolutely is.
Explain.
Because a fully grown man. I mean, I'm sure we've all seen that horrible Michael Jackson documentary. You've got a fully grown man who is manipulating children into having to have sexual relations with him, and it's damaged them throughout their entire lives. That is something that they are not ready to consent to. Something they can be manipulated with. I certainly know from my gay experiences in life that I have been more than consenting when they have happened, and I've wanted them to happen. And it's happened in a very nice and organic way, and no one has made me feel like I've had a problem for it. You know, it's not something that I've decided to go with in the end because it wasn't me. But, you know, I'm very grateful that I've lived with people who are receptive to my ability to try that out. And like, goodness, I would not want anyone to think that I had some sort of mental disorder for wanting to sexually and emotionally connect with someone else.
So this is where I find totally inconsistent approach and double standards. We are talking about people's preferences for their sexual engagement with anyone or anything, right? So you have people who have sexual preferences for animals. You have people who have sexual preferences to minors. You have people who have as a man, sexual preferences for women, and women sexual preferences to women. Yeah. So you are now linking this kind of sexual preferences. It's not the issue. You're saying where there is a harm, where there is perhaps the issues of consent. So it's not. So you're being a little bit homophobic, I think, in your approach when you use this way. I'll tell you why.
Am I being homophobic?
Let me explain.
So
let me explain.
Like what mental gymnastics?
Let me explain. Let me explain. When you disown, when you look down upon a gay person or a lesbian person
Which I do
because of their homosexual preferences, you'd say you shouldn't do that because that's homophobia. Like you agree with me, right? If you
did I what? So
a gay and a lesbian
hang on,
person,
right, you don't need to get upset.
I'm not getting upset. I'm just trying to explain to you. Perhaps you need to understand what I'm saying. Would you look down upon a gay person or a lesbian person, saying these are mental disorder people?
Not.
Right. So someone having a sexual preference, that's their preference, to have relationship with the same sex. You have now an individual, a pedophile, who has sexual preference to minors. Why are you looking down upon that individual? Because that's the sexual preference for them?
I think it's a preference that's often born through childhood trauma, through...
So now you're linking with correlation and causation. You're not thinking about people's own choice. One moment, please.
Yes, I am.
You are automatically linking people's sexual preferences. So is it not possible also gay and lesbian choices can also be likewise like these kind of factors that you bring up?
No, I don't think so.
So is it genetic?
No, I don't think that's necessarily true either.
So what is making the sexual preferences among our gay and lesbian communities? Where is this preferences and choice come from? Is it conditional by the society?
Over missionary
Sorry. We are talking about people. So look again.
But there is an absolute difference
if a man is attracted to another man in a gay relationship, right, you're saying it's okay. I don't look down upon. But when a man is attracted to a young man or a young woman, which is a minor, you're saying it's a mental disorder.
Yeah.
Well, isn't that a double standard?
No, absolutely not.
Why not?
Because, let's put it this way, some people choose to communicate, talk to each other in a very normal way. However, some people maybe with let's take another disorder and pluck one out of the air, like psychopathy. That actually dictates that you prefer to manipulate people when you talk to them. Like if you ever talk to a stone cold psychopath, they will, depending on the situation, they can be manipulative, they can choose to talk to you in a certain way, which is negative. Now, the means of communication, verbally, physically, all that stuff, all that means is the same. However, what's happening when you're communicating with a psychopath, which is a mental disorder, which is linking to a mental disorder, an entirely different situation happens. So now let's take things back to the sexual realm. Now you've got relations between a man and a woman, relations between two men, relations between two women. All of these things are relations. However, there is something broken, something fundamentally damaged when someone who literally cannot help their sexual proclivity towards children. Now I think that, and there is so much evidence that is related to trauma, that's related to early experiences that have damaged the person, and therefore they think this way. So we choose to do things in our day-to-day life every single day. I choose to cycle around the park, someone else chooses to pick up a brick and beat a homeless guy to death with it. They are both things you choose to do. Now, does that mean we shouldn't be able to step outside and do things just because of the risk of that one other thing happening? Like one is a normal activity and one is a bad activity. And
which one's the normal activity?
Cycling around the park.
Okay.
And the bad one is beating the homeless guy to death with a brick.
Right.
So, do you see what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, but what you still haven't really understood from what I'm trying to say, maybe I'm not explaining too well enough,
Yeah,
which is this.
You're saying,
What I'm
what's
saying,
the difference between
no,
what-
I'm saying,
Okay.
we are talking about not about harm that results from the sexual preferences of people. I'm not interested
But
in.
why, so
I'm simply.
why are you comparing paedophiles to gay people? Then?
Wait a moment.
Let's really get down
Wait
to
a moment.
the
Wait a
Let's get
moment.
into it.
I'm talking about people's sexual preferences, which you say it's not actually genetic. If it's not genetic, it's then conditioned by people themselves or other environment, the environment around them. Either it's the society, it's the media, it's the pop culture, it's the TV, it's the whatever they are being brainwashed or indoctrinated with. So instead of saying to a gay or a lesbian individual, we need to reform you, we need to treat you, we need to actually find out, was it a trauma or not? Was it like something happened with you in your young son? You're saying it's okay. Have you not forgotten already that homosexuality was a mental disorder until very recently? Things have changed because of the lobbying, not because of. Wait. Now, maybe pedophilia will not be a mental disorder in the near future. That's what pedophiles are.
Actually, they're going that way now,
They're actually, lobbying for.
Yeah.
They want to be recognized. Someone they cannot control the love, the philia they have to the minors. But what I'm highlighting is this is the problem.
That does not
this
mean
is
they're
the,
about to legalise
No. I'm saying
mate.
this
It
is
doesn't
the
mean
problem. This is the problem. We are not really understanding the real problem underlying all of this sexual preferences. If it's not genetic, think about it. Why would then people want to have a relationship with a tree or an animal or someone of the same sexes if it's not genetic? Then it's conditioned by the environment. You have to say that. It's conditioned by their own thinking, their own some kind of, watching.
Are you medical then? You know about genetics?
Little bit, yeah.
Yeah, are you medically... So which genes is it that's... which genes
okay.
is it for paedophilia and which genes is it for homosexuality?
Because you've asked me a question, not realized perhaps what I'm saying. I am not for pedophilia. I am not for homosexuality or LGBT. What I'm saying, I'm highlighting the double standards when it comes to the lobbying of the LGBT community. Right? They are pushing forward so much that our children are forced at the age of 4 to learn about daddy bear and the baby bear, or dad and a child. You think it's a good? So maybe you should say a pedophile.
It's no need to get upset. Let me tell you.
No, I'm just explaining to the lady here.
Yeah.
We are being forced soon by legislation. That's where this starts. By legislation, that you have to learn about this sexual relationship of people. Now, so a sexual preference of a pedophile, you're okay with it, right?
It's a big
not about that. It's about understanding different things.
Yeah. So you understand that there are people out there who can't help but being attracted to minors.
So
it's
saying,
okay,
so
right?
would you rather just show
Would you like to teach our children
so
at
they don't
age
have
4 in our schools?
But would you rather?
So I didn't hear what he said.
Would you
Can I?
rather
Please.
just listen
Can
to
I?
I think it's
Go
really
ahead.
important that people do understand about sexual difference. Of course you don't promote paedophilia. You don't promote anything that's harmful. But of course you need to educate people.
So a child of
They
4.
don't teach paedophilia at school.
Wait,
they don't teach paedophilia.
Should we? The question is because the
Why are
government.
you asking that question? No one's teaching paedophilia in schools. Any
you
more than they're
you
teaching
haven't-
bestiality in
you haven't
schools.
understood what I'm saying.
All right, I don't.
People's sexual preferences,
Well, that's
homosexuality. Yep.
Yes.
Whether you're gay,
It's
lesbian.
not the same thing.
Please listen, then you'll
I
understand
understand. Okay.
what is the same thing or not.
Yeah.
It's people's sexual preferences. So a man is attracted to a man.
Are
Excuse
you
me.
attracted to men? No.
No. That's what I'm
My
saying.
husband's very attractive. No.
So listen. We have in our society man being attracted to man and having sexual intimacy with them. Women being attracted to women having sexual
Yes.
intimacy with them.
Yes.
So I'm saying there are people out there who we call people of mental disorder, the pedophiles. Yeah. We call them people with a mental disorder.
Who calls them that?
Oh, so they're okay, they're good people. They're meaning they're
Well, what is
straight
the mental
people.
disorder?
Okay, fine. So it's not a mental disorder. So we have people here who have sexual preferences with young children.
Yes.
So should we teach that it's okay to have sexual preferences to our small kids.
Wait a minute, you're saying...
Excuse me.
No, hold on. You're saying that being a woman attracted to woman and a man being attracted to man and teaching that people to have different sexual preferences is the same as promoting paedophilia.
No, you misunderstood again. You misunderstood again. Let me try to explain.
One more time, yeah.
The government is legislating
Not
about
paedophilia.
You're not letting me finish. You're not letting me make my point.
And then
Perhaps try to understand,
Well, I
please.
am trying, yeah.
Right, by listening. So we have the government legislating that at the age of in a primary school,
Yeah.
our children
Yeah.
should be taught by compulsory education.
Yeah.
You can't withdraw them from these teaching classes.
Yeah.
By compulsory education, people's sexual preferences.
Yes, but not
Let me
all
finish.
sexual
Can you
preferences.
Can you let me finish?
You
keep interjecting. Let him finish his point.
Your point then.
I can
let
only
him
finish my
let him
point if you don't
finish his point.
interject.
Okay, go
Thank
on.
you. That's
He
very
was
kind.
having a conversation
Thank
with this
you.
gentleman and you
Right.
interrupted him.
That's right.
So allow him
Right.
to
Thank you.
finish.
Thank you. So now, the lobbying behind the current legislation is by the LGBTQ XYZ whatever community, right?
Yeah.
It keeps on growing in number. I'm saying you have a group of people who we class them as pedophiles. They want to be included in this LGBTQ plus, and also wants to be recognized that they have also sexual preferences to children. So by that understanding, are you okay with the government?
But you're
Let me finish.
legislating that.
Are you okay if the government legislates that it's okay to people have sexual preferences for themselves, to have sexual preferences with a tree or an animal or a minor or a man or a woman? We should teach our children at a very young age.
Well, the government isn't promoting that. It's promoting LGBT.
What if the government did that? What if the
But it's not doing
no?
that.
What if? Because the
It's like
government.
promoting,
No.
you get off screwing
Do you know?
or murdering.
Do you know during the
Snuff movies.
during?
But they're not doing
Do you
that.
know
Why are you
during the
asking question?
Perhaps you don't know.
No, but
The
why-
government consulted the parents about their opinion about teaching the sexual education to primary school.
But what's that got to do with paedophilia?
Listen, the parents spoke. More than 60%, if not 68%, I can't remember the figure. They said, we don't want our children.
But where did you
Yet.
get that figure? It wasn't 68%.
What was it?
No, there were some schools where there were certain
I'm not talking about school, I'm talking about consultation period. The government, before they introduced the legislation,
Yeah.
they consult parents.
Yeah.
So there was a group of people that were consulted and people responded.
What do you think's right then?
You're not going to allow me to finish my point, do you?
No, the point.
What I'm saying
He
is,
never does finish his point. yeah?
because you never listen completely. You interject in the middle. That's the problem,
Thought
perhaps.
That was a long pause. I got you to
Right,
finish. I beg
okay,
your pardon.
thank you. So government is legislating
Yeah.
even though the consultation by the parents
Yeah.
was against that legislation.
Right.
So if the government legislate next year,
Yeah.
it's okay to our children to be taught that there are people who we should not look down upon because they have sexual preferences to minors, young people.
No, that's not what they're
What are you going to do
saying.
then?
They're not. They're talking about LGBT.
Yeah, they've
You're not
set a
listening.
precedent.
They're not
They've
talking
set a
about
precedent, that's the
paedophilia.
point.
They're not talking
You
about
did not hear
pedophilia.
again.
They're not.
Again, you didn't even understand what I said. Did you? Did you? I said, if the government introduces
But they're not
enough.
going to. It's hypothetical. It's not
Look,
going to.
who knew, brother?
No, not paedophilia.
No.
Brother, excuse me, brother. Let's have one discussion, right? Thank you.
Let's stick to one. Let's try to stick to one conversation.
If look,
Who
who?
are you? Why are you telling me
Right,
that?
right. Okay, who knew? Okay, madam, who knew the government would legislate to teach? Wait,
They
please,
absolutely should.
hang on. So,
Why do you not like gay people? What's wrong with being gay?
why do you like
You didn't say that
pedophiles?
for a start.
I didn't say I liked paedophiles.
So you like pedophiles? Do you like pedophiles?
Pedophiles are like working with minors and like people are, like young people don't have choices. But adults, perfectly, if a male wants to go with a male,
I'm talking about
wants to
pedophiles.
go with a woman, good, bloody luck to
Okay,
them.
why do you hate or dislike the pedophiles?
I didn't say I hate or dislike. It's completely wrong to use a minor for sex. Of course it is.
What if they don't use the minors, but they only have an attraction and they say I can't help it? It's okay.
I mean, who knows what your attraction? I mean, everyone here probably has
So it's
very
okay.
perverted
So
attraction.
you'd be,
They don't tell
so you're
you.
okay to give them rights, right? To have attraction to minors,
It's not
and nobody
right.
should say anything against them.
Well, no one knows what you're attracted to. Who knows
Excuse
what
me.
you fantasize about?
No, excuse me.
Yeah.
Now I want you to really
You can't
be.
legislate about what people think. You can legislate what people do.
No, what I'm saying is,
Yeah.
if the government legislates that you should not look down upon the people who have attraction to minors, would you be okay with that?
Absolutely not, of course not. No, would you?
Look at that. Did you know the government would legislate that our children at the age of 4 should be learning about it's okay to have sexual attraction against man?
Well, what's wrong with that?
What's wrong with pedophilia?
But they're not the same thing. One's with minors and one's consenting adults.
So
It's not the same thing.
I'm talking about someone.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't know. I don't
You're
think.
just
I don't. I don't think. I don't think you're ready enough to understand the
No, I
grievousness
understand
of the
very
subject.
well. I do
No.
understand
I don't
very
think.
well.
I don't think people have woken up yet.
You're getting
Listen.
confused
Listen.
with children
Okay.
and adults who are consenting.
What if a man
Yes.
like this gentleman comes along to a
You like children?
excuse me, listen, a gentleman
Yeah.
and says, "Today I feel like a woman. I'm a woman."
Yeah, what's wrong
And
with
then
that?
this man who says she's a woman and she goes or he goes
They
or
go,
it goes,
they go,
listen,
they go,
listen,
they go,
listen,
yeah.
finish. Says, I want to go to the women-only bathrooms. I want to go to the women-only places. Would you? It's happening. Thank you.
Yeah, good luck to them.
So there's nothing wrong with that.
It's not my choice. What's wrong about it?
No, it's not wrong. You can't have a man that's going through it. This is the problem now, where we've gone
Why is
wrong
it
in
a
society.
problem?
Well, where you've got a grown man like me, for example, that decides that suddenly I've gone over to be a woman,
that's what
then they want
happens.
to. No.
But it does
No, that
happen.
is where
I
I
know
agree.
plenty
I
of
agree.
people
I
who've done
disagree
that.
with a lot of
They're
people as well.
very
But that we could learn a lot from the
Muslims
Muslims on that
basically,
on that side of things.
being,
We learn a lot from Christianity.
Of course we could.
Why can't consenting adults choose how they want to
Well,
live?
because you can't have a grown man like me that suddenly decides he wants to be a woman, goes through some training, and then suddenly wants to start using women's toilets.
Why not? Well, what's wrong with
You
it?
see, okay,
Why does it bother
okay.
you?
Just want to bring this full flavor in place.
Yeah, but-
Now,
yeah.
would you be okay with a father having sexual relationship with his own son, mother with his own son,
And they're all adults.
Well, that's against the law anyway.
consent, by consent? Would you be okay with that?
Well, it's legal.
So you're okay with that?
No, not really. Not if they're young.
Hang on.
Not if they're young. Not if
Hang
they're
on,
young.
adults.
Look, adults get up to. I mean, honestly.
So you're okay with two adults, mother and son having sexual relationship. You're okay with that?
Personally,
What if it's legalized? Homosexuality was illegal in this country, punishable by death over there. They used to be hanged. Not too long ago. They used to be hanged. Have we forgotten? Thank you. Yes. So, no, please, madam. I am saying, if you just make this reason that it is not legal, legalization can happen sooner than you think.
Well,
So,
consenting adults is quite a different thing.
in Switzerland, is it legal? I think it's legal, isn't it? I don't know. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Sweden maybe. All these countries where
What are you going on about? Anyway,
listen, sorry.
I've got to go.
Where this kind of relationship, what do we term this relationship between families? Does anyone know? Incest is legal. If it's legal in this country, people will say, what's wrong with that? But this is where the society is going bust. The society is going so downhill with this that they have forgotten the boundary of what is relationship. And so when our government is teaching us at very young to our children, 4 years old, that it's okay, daddy bear and baby bear. They don't even know anything about biology. At that time, at age of 4, biology is not a compulsory part of your education, and you teach them sex education. That is what I'm highlighting. And I'm also highlighting the idea that people have gone so much that they think today I'm a cat. They behave like a cat, they eat like a cat, and they look like a cat. There are people out there doing these kind of things. So if we don't wake up to this kind of, what I'm saying is transformation in people's mentality, if that isn't a mental disorder, then what is? Then what is? This is what we should be waking up to. The society is, without our knowledge, they're legislating, they're promoting to such an extent that someday in the future, our lives will be miserable. You won't be in a society, you'll be thinking like, okay, you want to go to a bathroom, right? Someone who is like you're a woman, and some man comes along and he wants to urinate there, but he says, I'm a woman today, and it's happening. You can't say anything. You can't say anything. What are you going to say? And look, people we know from instances that they have abused this right of theirs and they raped women. And how is it going to stop those people who know that, okay, look, in the prison, for example.
How do we stop it?
One moment, before you go into house yet, we want to understand the problem exists first. That this man says, okay, I feel like a woman, so put them into women's prison, and he rapes the women prisoners. How can you stop them? You can't stop them because you've given them the right already, that because he thinks she's a woman or he's a woman, he must be a woman, have to give him this right. So we have to do what to prevent? We have to have clear guidelines in society.
And where has all this become? Has it manifested itself in European law or European parts? You know, where's it come from? We know liberal America, but where is it?
It's going to come from the liberalized thinking. Wherever there's a liberalized thought process which influences the government decisions, it's going to start from there and it's going to spread. And this is how the society will then eventually come to a point where, you know, you'll be living like a zoo. Now, sorry to use this word, but that's how it's going to be. People come like crawling like a cat. It's a human being crawling like a cat, and he says, "I'm a cat." Meow, meow. I mean, look at this, how people have become. I mean, it's not a rare thing that we're talking about, but this is exactly what's happening. As Muslims, I'm a Muslim. We have clear guidance from our Creator about who we are, what our relationship is between people, how we should interact with people, and how we should observe rights between individuals. Right? So a pedophile is a pedophile. We're not going to give them any right because this is not natural, normal. This is something that's gone wrong here. So Islam doesn't say it's okay, go and do that. So that's why you will find in Islamic teaching, it talks about people holistically. And then it reforms the people. It gives people the chance to understand who they are, and within this boundary to make a society which is loving, compassionate, just and thriving. And that's why Islamic societies in the past, we were, when Islam was implemented, the golden peak of civilization. Golden peak of civilization. But we have forgotten this history. We have forgotten these lessons in our history where it's not even taught in our schools. When this country, in particular in England, when the Queen of England perhaps didn't have a bath in a month, we had underground sewage system, overground lighting system in Spain and Andalus. That's how Islam elevated people and technology and civilization and humanity. We need to understand, and that's why this is, and I'm bringing down to Islam.
You're going back a few hundred years, aren't you?
I'm going back in the past, but today Muslims are not making a monopoly on anything, because science and technology is not a monopoly for any religion, any group, or any race. Everyone's contributing, and we have to acknowledge and understand and appreciate that. But what I'm saying, at what point Islam introduced the search and quest for knowledge for a reason, because it doesn't allow people to be completely shut and brain dead or brainwashed and thinking that's it, don't use your reason, don't use your intellect. But Islam flourished them in their quest for knowledge. And that's why many of the constellations and stars are named by Muslim scientists. Whether it's algebra, mathematics, optics, physics, biology, astronomy, you name it, Muslims contributed. Why? Where did they get this spark from? They got it from the Quran. And this is what we come here in Speaker's Corner to invite people back to look into this Quran, which we as Muslims believe is a guidance from our Creator. Our Creator. At the end of the day, when you research and reflected, pondered, and analyzed its message, if you like it, accept it. If you don't accept it. That's the message of the Quran. There is no compulsion in religion, and no one can compel anyone to believe in anything anyway. That's the teaching of Islam.
Fantastic,
okay?
but I have a plane to catch. Keep peaceful.
Take care. See you later.